Fortunately, unfortunately, we are not able to conduct a public hearing at this moment. It will occur starting at 6:30. So until that time, we will fill that in with other items on the agenda. Excuse me? Okay, on the other items of the agenda, less the public hearing. Next item on the agenda is my chairman's report. And I have a little statement to read. Since our last meeting in April and with the recent appearance of some roadside signs, I've engaged myself in considerable research. Some of the research resulted in factual information, some findings providing future predictions, and some research resulting in expressions of sincere emotions and feelings. The research I was conducting pertains to data centers and other similar technology pursuits. A couple of months ago, we, the commissioners, were provided materials to consider and ponder. No decisions were asked of us at that time. Instead, since the presentation, we, the commissioners, were asked questions seeking factual data. We desire and continue this request so we can make the best recommendation to the board when the time becomes appropriate. Today, tomorrow, or even next month we will unlikely see any recommendation from this commission. This more immediate timeline will be devoted to the commencement of the zoning ordinance rewrite, as the bandaging of our ordinance is leaving too many scars and eroded cohesion and effectiveness of our current ordinances. I can assure us all the investigation and research on data centers is not complete. I will ask the commissioners to continue their own investigations and to participate in planning work sessions as these events are announced. Please recognize one thing. We all should affirm that the new zoning ordinance will contain some form of position on data centers, as the discussion has been initiated and will demand continuing, considerable, and fitting evaluation. Continuing on, this past Saturday, the planning department had its first pop-up at the New Kent County's Market for input on the zoning ordinance rewrite. Ms. A.B. Pearson and Mr. Patrick Silva, along with the representative from our consulting group, Stephanie Mathani. Okay, thank you. We're managing the booth, and it was interesting to see quite a number of residents providing input. I'd like to thank those individuals involved and thank those residents who participated. There will be future opportunities for the public, including this Wednesday from 6 to 7 at the New Kent Middle School on the zoning rewrite. Moving on, Plan RV report, Mr. Reverend Hathaway.
Mr. Chairman, we've not had one since
Thank
our last meeting.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner's report. If I may, Mr. Reverend Hathaway, can I start with you?
Sure. I'm assigned to the Housing Advisory, and we're still narrowing down our recommendations for the county. We're working with the group to consider about a land trust in New Kent.
Okay.
And what's the best method of doing that? In Rackwood and our neighboring localities seem to be working through a land trust, and so we've invited someone to come down and talk to us about that.
Thank you, sir.
Sure.
Ms. Rose.
Nothing at this time.
Thank you. Mr. Moyer.
Just a report from the Board of Supervisors meeting. The event space, the Board of Supervisors approved that, and the agritourism space on Roxbury Road was declined. And there'll be further action possibly on that.
Thank you, sir. Mr. La Rochelle.
No, sir.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Thomas.
No, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Ms. Johnson.
Not at this time.
And Mr. Dombrowski.
Not at this time.
And finally, Ms. Townsend.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
If I could possibly get an update, I still have some major concerns on dispatch in 249. The traffic was horrendous throughout the week. One with paving, two with the traffic coming off Interstate 64. So do we have any further information, Mr. Moyer?
All the funding is in for the roundabout at Dispatch and 249, which includes $3.5 million from the Central Virginia Transportation Authority, approximately $3.5 million from VDOT, and we are going to be putting it out to bid for engineering and design. And at that time, we'll find out if that's the amount of money we need or not, which is $7 million. And then the one question will be how much we have to spend on easements. Hopefully that people understand the safety of the whole county is involved, and they'll be lenient on how much they want for those easements. So we're putting that out there right now. We believe we got a good idea of what we're going to be spending on those. And I was disappointed about the number of complaints I got for somebody paving roads. And somehow I was involved with the VDOT people standing around. One, it's not VDOT doing the repaving. It was a general contractor that did the repaving. And they were able to do dispatch from I believe from the railroad track all the way to 249 within like 2 days, which I thought was extremely good experience for everybody. And I know a lot of those people are very happy now. So thank you for bringing that up, Ms. Townsend.
I do appreciate the paving because they did a really nice job. It was just the timing was very bad because the traffic backed up. With the normal traffic plus the traffic from Interstate 64, it then kind of became a nightmare. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Staff reports, Mr. Silver or Mr. Raggi?
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. And just for the record, Patrick Silva with the Department of Community Development's Planning Division. With your chair report, you teed me up quite nicely to provide a brief overview of the ongoing efforts relating to the zoning and subdivision ordinance update. So as you alluded to, we had our sort of first kickoff with respect to public engagement at this past Saturday's farmers market. Really, obviously, no work has started in terms of firm changes with respect to the ordinance at this point, but we're working to get the word out there that we are undertaking this process and starting to try to gather feedback from residents for what they would like to see change and what they would like to see stay the same. So we did have some very encouraging engagement at that event. As you mentioned, this coming Wednesday will be another opportunity to engage at an in-person open house at the middle school from 6 to 7:30 p.m., followed by a number of other upcoming opportunities for engagement. We'll be back at the farmers market on Saturday the 30th, and there will be, for those who might not be able to attend the in-person open house on Wednesday, a virtual open house that'll take place in early June. I would also like to mention that if folks don't have the ability to attend any of these events, we would still encourage you to take the zoning and subdivision ordinance update survey. This is something you could fill out. It's on the county's website, easily found on social media, where you can kind of voice what you would like to see come out of this process, voice any concerns you might have. Really, I can't stress enough how important hearing from the residents as part of this process is, so we can all work together to realize the best version of the ordinance that enables New Kent to grow the way that the residents would like to see it. So I would just let folks know to stay tuned for more updates on ways to engage and as we move this process along, particularly as we actually get into the nitty-gritty of doing some presenting on the changes. But just in the near term, keep an eye on social media for ways to stay in tune with it.
Mr. Silva, do you know what the format is for this Wednesday meeting, our group?
Yes, there will be kind of a brief overview of what the process is proposed to do, a kind of zoning 101, as it were, to open things up. And then there will be a number of exercises that we'll engage with the residents on that kind of allow you to see the interplay of the various regulations in the zoning ordinance and see what it impacts, see how it impacts development, see what changes could be put in place to protect the county in the ways the residents want to see it protected. So there will be some engaging exercises that'll take place in addition to a sort of instructional overview of what the process entails.
Thank you, sir. Mr. Raggi, anything? Thank you. Well, I will call this meeting in recess for the moment until 6:30, whence we can begin with the public hearing regarding the rezoning. Until that such time, we are on recess, and I'll reconvene it at 6:30 again. Thank you.
Only on Friday night.
I'll call the New Kent County Planning Commission meeting back to order. And at this time, we'll roll into the public hearing for tonight. And Ms. Rose, if you would have the floor, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, we have one public hearing before us. The public hearing has been properly advertised for tonight's consideration. Let me take a moment to review the procedures that we will use for tonight's hearing. Each public hearing will be considered separately. Staff will give a brief overview of the hearing that is before us. The sponsor of the case will be given an opportunity to make a presentation. Commissioners will be given an opportunity to ask questions of the sponsors or staff for clarification purposes. I will then open the citizens' comment portion of the public hearing and receive your comments. Sign-up sheets are located on the desk in the front, by the front doors of the admin building. I ask the following. You come to the podium, state your name and address for the record, address your comments to the commissioners, limit your comments to 3 minutes. When the timer sounds, please conclude your remarks. I'll now open public hearing for application ZM-01-26, Pine Fork Ridge rezoning. Mr. Silva?
Thank you very much, Mrs. Rose. And good evening, members of the Planning Commission. Again, for the record, my name is Patrick Silva, Principal Planner with the Department of Community Development's Planning Division. And as mentioned, this evening I'll be presenting for your consideration a rezoning request submitted by John W. Montgomery on behalf of Godsey Properties, Inc. to rezone 5 currently A1 agricultural zone properties identified as tax map parcels 21-79, 21-81, 21-80, 21-74 and 21-77 respectively, totaling approximately 201.8 acres, to R2 general residential in order to subsequently subdivide the properties to establish 259 single-family residential lots, collectively identified as the Pine Fork Ridge subdivision. So to provide some locational context first, the subject properties in the proposed rezoning are located on Pine Fork Road, just over 1 mile west of the intersection of Pine Fork Road and Route 106, directly across from Pine Fork Park, as can be seen on this graphic here. So a few key details regarding the proposal to kick things off. So the roads within the community are proposed to be public and maintained by VDOT. The future subdivision would be proposed to be served by public water and sewer as well. Another important thing to note is that voluntary proffers, including cash proffers per dwelling, transportation improvements, public water and sewer extensions, have been offered by the applicant in tandem with their rezoning request, which I'll speak a little bit more to here in a moment. As some additional background as well, the applicant held a community meeting on March 5th, 2026 at Fire Station 5 to present and discuss the rezoning request with neighboring property owners and New Kent residents. Residents in attendance inquired about and expressed concerns relating to topic areas including potential traffic impacts on Pine Fork and Route 106, existing road conditions of Pine Fork Road, proposed landscape buffers, stormwater and runoff impacts, school system impacts, the purchase price point for the dwellings proposed, and how the proposal would otherwise impact existing homes in the area. So to get into the concept of the proposed subdivision, this slide here shows the concept plan provided by the applicant, which shows how the future subdivision is proposed to be configured. So as I already mentioned, the proposal is for 259 single-family detached dwellings built on lots with an average area of 0.45 acres, the smallest being 0.27 acres and the largest being just over 1.4 acres. The proposed gross density of the subdivision overall is approximately 1.28 lots per acre. The layout includes 2 points of access into the community off of Pine Fork Road, one just east of Bristlecone Boulevard and one directly across from Cagwin Road and slightly west of Pine Fork Park. So the most northern one here and the southern one here directly across from Pine Fork Park and Cagwin. Another point of note, the site is encumbered with approximately 42.6 acres of resource protection area, particularly in the rear of the site back here, as well as in the middle of the site between proposed roads E and G, so between these two roads here. As well as some additional RPA in the southern area of the site located south of proposed Road A down here. In the middle of the subdivision, the applicant has proposed a recreational open space area, which would include amenities such as a dog park, tot lot, cornhole, and picnic areas. That is located in the middle of the site right here. It is also proposed to connect to a nature trail running through the resource protection area located in the middle of the site, which would connect proposed roads G and E. So you can see that it's a little bit hard to see on the screen from here, but there's a dashed line running through that area, connecting into the proposed recreational open space area. Now, to detail some key components of the interdepartmental staff analysis, which takes place in relation to any rezoning request the county receives, Department of Public Utilities staff commented that they are in general agreement with the calculations and conclusions of the utility fiscal impact study that was provided with the applicant's rezoning request. Some of those projected public utilities revenues as outlined in that report can be seen in this graphic here. They also noted that at this time, sufficient capacity exists within the overall water and sewer systems to accommodate the proposed development if site-specific improvements are made. However, based on their engineer's preliminary review, capacity upgrades at the farms of New Kent Sewer Pump Stations 4 and 5 would most likely be required to add the required flow necessary to do so. I had mentioned that the applicant provided a voluntary proffers with their application submission. One of those proffers was the applicant's offering to extend public water and sewer system service from the farms of New Kent to the proposed subdivision into the property line of Pine Fork Park. So that's proffer number 7 in the proffer statement that was attached to the meeting packet. So while not making the connection into Pine Fork Park itself, they would be proposing to run it to the property line. Public utility staff have also estimated that the future county cost to complete the connection of water and sewer services into Pine Fork Park would range from approximately $115,000 to $175,000, not including bi-monthly water and sewer usage fees. So regarding traffic and transportation considerations, a traffic impact analysis, otherwise known as a TIA, was provided by the applicant with their rezoning submission, which estimated the following traffic generation volumes and trip distributions at full build-out, as you can see in this graphic here. So as detailed in this graphic, the additional vehicles per day generated by Pine Fork Ridge would be approximately 1,221 additional vehicles. Based on the WARN analysis, roadway capacity analysis, and projected trip generations conducted as part of the TIA, full movement driveways and 200-foot westbound right turn tapers on Pine Fork Road are recommended for both of the entrances that I pointed out on that concept plan a moment ago. In the review of the TIA report provided by the applicant, the Virginia Department of Transportation staff found that the study was performed in accordance with current standards of the state and generally concurred with the findings contained therein. However, VDOT staff has commented that when Four Seasons Ridge Lane opens, which is directly across Route 106 from where Pine Fork Road intersects with Route 106, that is a road that will be developed as part of the Farms of New Kent Land Bay 5. When Four Seasons Ridge Lane opens, VDOT staff did express that they have concerns there may be sight distance challenges at the intersection with Pine Fork Road for the northbound and southbound left turn lanes due to opposing left turns that could potentially create vision challenges for people getting onto Route 106. And noted that additional improvements such as offset left turn lanes would need to be provided and reasonably assumed by developers in the area. Regarding other transportation-based proffers of note, beyond the recommended roadway improvements detailed in the TIA, the applicant has proffered the installation of a westbound left turn lane on Pine Fork Road into Pine Fork Park at the Bristlecone Boulevard intersection. So this would include 200 feet of storage and 200 feet of taper, subject to sufficient right-of-way being made available by either VDOT or New Kent County. In addition, they have also proffered the repaving of Pine Fork Road with 1.5 inches of asphalt overlay on the existing roadway, as well as the improvement and addition of stone to existing shoulders from the intersection of Pine Fork Road and 106 to Road K, which is the southernmost entrance into the proposed subdivision that was shown on that concept plan a moment ago. Finally, they have also proffered the installation of centerline double yellow striping on Pine Fork Road from Route 106 to Airport Road. Regarding school impacts, the applicant also provided a school impact analysis with their rezoning request, in which it was calculated that the proposed future subdivision would add between 98 and 99 students to the New Kent County public school system, based on the 259 single-family detached dwellings proposed. So this would end up being approximately 0.78 or 0.382 students per dwelling, which is pretty consistent with the generation figures used countywide. As a sort of county average. Based on the anticipated student generation volume, the applicant's consultant estimated that the additional students would trigger the need to purchase an additional standard-sized school bus, as well as one additional 15-passenger special needs school bus. In their review of the school impact analysis, New Kent County Public Schools staff confirmed that they are in general agreement with the methodology used to calculate these figures and the projected student generation numbers provided therein. So this is a graphic here from that school impact analysis report that shows existing capacity of the various schools, current enrollment, remaining capacity. This committed pipeline development students is based on other ongoing development in the quote-unquote pipeline here in the county that would also be anticipated to add additional students. And then here in this column would be the additional students added by the Pine Fork Ridge development. Regarding environmental considerations, Environmental Division staff noted that as wetlands and resource protection areas are present within the project area, they would require a copy of a wetland RPA delineation report prior to formal plan review of a development and construction plan submission at the subdivision stage. They also noted that lots which abut the resource protection area buffer appear to utilize their rear yard property lines as part of the required 100-foot RPA buffer setback. Though allowable, environmental staff has expressed a preference for the offset of such property lines to include a required 20-foot building setback line from the RPA buffer to better ensure that the RPA buffer is not accidentally impacted during future site work. Finally, in relation to the walking path that I mentioned ran through the recreation area in the community, they commented that recreation paths are an allowable use through RPA buffers, provided they're permitted from the Environmental Division and adhere to the Department of Conservation and Recreation's RPA Buffer Modification and Mitigation Guidance Manual. However, if the path is planned to intersect and permanently impact any wetland or stream body, further state permitting would be required, which may include a formal exception from the New Kent County Chesapeake Bay Preservation Board. Finally, regarding some key planning considerations, to address concerns regarding visibility of the future subdivision, staff suggested the applicants consider implementing landscape buffers, and screening measures relative to the site. As such, the applicant has voluntarily proffered a 100-foot visual landscape buffer along the site's Pine Fork Road frontage, a 35-foot transitional buffer around the entire perimeter of the subdivision, as well as an 8-foot privacy fence around portions of the perimeter of the subdivision adjacent to existing homes within 100 feet of the subject property boundaries. So if I scroll back to that concept plan, you can see again that there is a 100-foot buffer proposed along each of the entrances on Pine Fork Road, here and here. Again, it's a little bit hard to see on this graphic, but there is a 35-foot transitional buffer called out around the perimeters of the subdivision. And then again, there is a 8-foot privacy fence proposed adjacent to portions that have residences within 100 feet of those property boundaries. It is important to note that the subject sites in this request have all been designated by the New Kent Comprehensive Plan as having a future land use designation of rural lands. The comprehensive plan defines the rural land future land use designation as aiming to maintain the rural character, allowing agriculture, forestry, and agritourism. Development density is to be kept very low. With this future land use description in mind, there exists an inconsistency between the future land use for this subject area as envisioned by the county's comprehensive plan and the proposed development. Last but not least, to address general fiscal impacts of the voluntary proffers provided by the applicant, including the proposed improvements to Pine Fork Road, public utility extensions from the farms of New Kent to the subdivision and property line of Pine Fork Park, the prepayment of utility hookup fees, and proposed cash proffers at $7,000 per lot, the total value of the voluntary proffers submitted to by the applicant totals to approximately $5,065,000, or approximately $19,555.98 per lot. So that concludes the general staff overview of the rezoning request and our analysis. And I'll now invite Mr. Montgomery up to present things from the applicant side.
Thank you, sir. Good evening. As you heard, my name is John Montgomery, and I'm here on behalf of the applicant. And Mr. Chairman, members of the commission, with your permission, I'll move forward with our presentation tonight. I have here with me a couple of folks I want to take just a brief moment to introduce. First, I want to introduce Mr. Doug Gotze, who is somewhere. Oh, thank you, Doug, you moved. Who is the contract purchaser of the property and would be the developer as well. We also have with us Mr. Daniel Skelton, who is the owner of one of the parcels. And then on our team, we had Joe Fidel from the Bay Companies, who provided the schematic and the engineering work that was done, as well as Mike Bailey from Grove and Slade, who provided the traffic impact analysis as well. So we're very excited. I'm very excited and privileged to be here to present this to you. It's a great opportunity, we believe, to bring forward a wonderful neighborhood that will maintain the rural features that have been mentioned along the way as being important, and also provide some great homes for New Kent families. I'm going to tell you first, this is a culmination of many, many months, actually up to a year, by Mr. Gotze, and then ultimately by our team as well. And many of the things that Mr. Gotze was looking for and that we've been looking for was to, as we considered a location for for Pine Fork Ridge, ultimately, was we wanted to avoid putting more traffic on 249. We wanted to avoid leapfrog, what I call leapfrog style growth or sprawl, where you just suddenly have a pocket of development that's not connected to anything else, and it ultimately becomes the impetus for other things around it. As you can see by the various maps, we're adjacent to other developments as well, including sewer and water. And then the ability to to connect with existing sewer and water, so that we didn't have homes having to be on well and septic and those sorts of things that ultimately can fail or leave problems with the county. So our proposal is, what I'm going to do tonight is I'm going to walk through the proposal, much of what's been shared with you already, but I'm going to follow the same order. I'm going to give you an overview. We're going to talk about utilities. We're going to talk about traffic, roads and improvements and transportation, and then schools, and then finally a summary of those proffered conditions that we have. So if I can make this mouse work like it's supposed to, we're going to move right along. Let's see what we have. They said it's sensitive, but All right, let's see here. There we go, and it is sensitive. All right, so here's a color graphic of what was already been provided to you of the concept plan. I won't go into detail about what Mr. Silva has already provided. I will tell you that, and much of what you're going to hear tonight is a response of feedback that we got at that public meeting, as well as other meetings from county officials as well, and other things that were shared with us along the way. But you will note, particularly if you have an opportunity to look at this up close, it does include the 8-foot privacy fences for properties that are adjacent within 100 feet. The other thing that I think is important to note is that the entranceways will be designed in such a way that when you look down the road to the entranceway, you won't see a row of homes. Instead, you will see woods and you'll see the buffer. So again, it's an opportunity to maintain the rural character of Pine Fork Ridge or Pine Fork Road. There we go. So as has been explained, we have approximately 202 acres almost being rezoned for 259 single-family homes, and I have the square footage of those homes being proposed. The development will include a family top lot and those other amenities that we discussed. And then we proffered, one of the things that came out of some of the meetings was an effort to avoid having homes that were, some people call them cookie cutter, or where they're repetitive along the way. And we made a number of proffers, which you have before you, that are designed to prevent that with both the style of the homes and the finish of the homes along the way, so that you don't have a repetition of the same model of home and the same presentation. We have the pedestrian trails that have already been mentioned. There will be connectivity to Pine Fork Park. And then the buffers, which are very important along Pine Fork Road, again, to maintain the rural character of things, and then the buffers along the adjacent properties. So let's look at a moment about the density, which was mentioned there. If you can see this, so we pulled up a couple of the other neighborhoods that are nearby, the Groves, Arbors, and then Beach Springs, and we looked at the total acreage and then the number of proposed, or the number of homes there and the number of proposed we have here. I believe it was shared that we were about 1.28. You will see that the Groves is more dense and the Arbors is more dense, and Beach Springs, of course, is not. So we're very consistent with what has evolved and what has been developed along there. So in one regard, when you talk about the fact that the comprehensive plan calls for it to continue to be a certain land use, one of the things that you often end up needing to do is see what has grown up around there, what has happened along there. And so you can see that we're maintaining what is in effect a very consistent density of what some of the other neighborhoods have been. And then I just want to show you briefly the homes that will be built. These are 6 of the models. As I mentioned, the finishes will be different so that among the various homes so that there will be no repetition. There's 2 of them. There's 2 more. And then these as well. So they're craftsman-style homes. You probably are familiar with those at Rochambeau. If you've been there, they're consistent with that, and also Deer Lake to a certain degree. So a question you may have is, and from the utilities report, is there sufficient sewer and water to support this project? And as Mr. Silva shared, the DPU was in general agreement with the calculations and the conclusions that we provided, and that there's sufficient capacity at this time for on-site improvements. And as long as those on-site improvements are considered. And what that means is as long as we install the sewer and water that are being designed, that there would be capacity on-site to accomplish that. There was mention about the need, possible need for future expansion of some of the pump stations. And frankly, it's virtually impossible to calculate that now. The whole process would begin with a study of the capacity of those pump stations, and then what was needed from there, and what would be coming from other projects, not ours, as well. So, but in order to address that, this is taken from the fiscal impact analysis of the utility fund, and you will see that over a 10-year period of time that there's a net revenue to the utility fund, if you will, of $6.3 million, which is a significant investment to do those sorts of things that might be needed down the road. So it's not as though it's being ignored. It's been addressed, and it's been addressed significantly, I would suggest to you. And that, so there, you can read that for yourself, but that is the impact, the physical impact of the project over the next roughly 10 years. And that, again, this is not a voluntary proffer. This is not a proffer. This is actually what will occur if the project goes forward. So let's talk about some of the voluntary proffers and things that we have been able to offer. So as you're aware, 259 homes, roughly, if you broke that into four phases, that'd be about 65 homes per. What we are willing to do and what we've proffered is that as each phase comes online, as each phase plan of development is approved, that the applicant would prepay 100% of the hookup fees, sewer and water, for that particular phase, which amounts to about $1.3 million for each phase. That's not free money. That costs the developer roughly over the course of this project, making certain assumptions about how long each phase takes, about $440,000 or approaching $500,000. But by doing that, it provides the county administration and sewer and water the ability to use some of that money to move out in front of any needs that need to be made, both planning and actual construction. Another, what we believe significant offer is that to install up to the property line of Pine Fork Park the sewer and water capacity. That is not inexpensive. And these figures were provided to your utility department, in which they they also came to the general understanding and agreement with the figures. In fact, it's pretty much arithmetic. It's a cost per linear foot, and you have a starting place and an ending place, and so it's not a whole lot of there's not a whole lot of opportunity to adjust it one way or the other. But that's about almost $1,100,000 worth of work that the applicant is offering for the future betterment of the county's park. And note that that is not strictly and certainly not tied directly to the 259 homes and the families there, but is for everyone in the county that uses what is really a phenomenal park. So that kind of concludes the utility portion of things. And I'm going to continue, but I should have said this to begin with. If you have any questions along the way, particularly on a particular section, we will certainly stop and talk about those. The next area that was mentioned in the staff report is about the traffic or transportation. The traffic impact analysis, and I have Mr. Bailey with me here to answer any technical questions, but it concluded, and VDOT reviewed it and agreed with the conclusion, that the requirement, first of all, it doesn't change the classification of Pine Fork Road. That Pine Fork Road, in its current condition and in its current capacity, can handle the additional vehicles, and as a matter of fact, can handle, according to the studies, can handle many more. What is required, however, are two entrance driveways into and out of the neighborhood, as well as a 200-foot right turn lane from Pine Fork Road into each entrance, and that was covered with Mr. Silver's presentation as well. So in a minute, when we talk about how much the various proffers are valued, keep in mind that this figure, this installation of these turn lanes and entrance, they're not included because these are required. So we're not suggesting that you should count this money as something that the developer is offering to improve things for the county. So that's what's required. Let's now focus for a minute on some of the voluntary improvements. And there were some of you I know who were at the community meeting, and then others who may have heard things along the way. But one of the things that we've heard, one of the concerns we've heard a great deal about, is the condition of Pine Fork Road and the ability to, notwithstanding the traffic impact analysis, the ability to handle additional traffic there. It is my understanding that VDOT has no plan to do any improvements on Pine Fork Road, at least not in what I would consider the relatively near future. So Mr. Godsey listened to the concerns of both the community and the county officials, and he went back and was able to offer the following, which you see here. So first of all, to repair the surface of the road as it exists, so in other words, potholes and crumbling pavement and things of that nature. Then importantly, to provide 1.5 inches of asphalt overlay onto the road. That's about, those two items, those two bullets are about $1.25 million worth of work. As part of that, he will also improve the shoulders and build the shoulders up to meet the new height of the road, and of course, clean them as he goes. And then finally, one of the things we heard quite a bit about was the traffic in and out of the park. So he is proposing to offer to install a westbound left turn lane from Pine Fork Road into Pine Fork Park. So again, and if you think about it for a moment, the folks who will be in Pine Fork Ridge will have virtually or almost no use of that left turn lane if they choose to walk in or out of the park or drive into it from one of the other entrances. So that left turn lane will be almost exclusively for other members of the New Kent community who get the use of that park along the way. And we just believe that's going to be a tremendous improvement for the traffic patterns in and out of there, which I think everyone will benefit from. And then finally, you heard Mr. Silva mention that there would be a double yellow line, center line installed. So, and to be clear, the pavement, repaving and improvement of the road will be from 106 down to, if you go back to that graphic, the southernmost or the westernmost entrance into Pine Fork Ridge. The center line will go from 106 all the way down to Airport Road. So it won't just stop abruptly. So we believe that that will be a significant safety improvement along there as well. There's also some mention, and Mr. Silva shared it as well, about sight distance concerns at the intersection of Four Seasons Ridge Lane and Route 106 or 609. And I think it's important for us to stop just a minute and look and think about that intersection for a moment. And I'm going to show you a graphic with it in just a minute. Right now, there is no sight distance issue, all right? The sight distance issue, as VDOT notes, will occur when Four Season Ridge Lane opens. So if you put to the side for the moment whether Pine Fork Ridge goes forward or not, when that road opens for Four Seasons Ridge Lane, that's where the problem will be created. It will have nothing to do with the opening of Pine Fork Ridge. So let's take a minute and see the graphic, which I think makes it clear. So the green, obviously take a moment to orient yourselves. But presently, Four Seasons Ridge Lane, it does not exist. It's a cleared road, but there's no traffic on it. Right now, if someone is traveling south on Emmaus Church Road and gets in the left turn lane, they've got nowhere to go unless they're just lost and make a U-turn. And in our traffic impact analysis, it concluded that there were 0 trips. There were 0 people making a left turn there. So what will change? I think the graphic makes very clear the only thing that will change is Four Seasons Ridge Lane will open, which is not part of our development, but is instead part of the Land Bay 5 of the farms at New Kent. So when it opens, they're going to create a situation where there may be offset site issues with folks traveling north on Emmaus Church Road. That's going to happen whether Pine Fork Ridge goes forward or not. So this is not an issue that we're creating, and in fact, it's not an issue that we can really do anything about because it's so far away from where we're presenting our presentation and our development. But everything about this, everything about that intersection and the problems that may occur are generated from the opening of this road. I beg your pardon, the opening of that road, Four Seasons Ridge Lane. Now, the next item that we discussed were the schools and the capacity of the schools to handle students, and there was a lot of discussion about that at the community meeting. So you can see this is a summary of the more detailed chart that Mr. Silva provided. The conclusion is that of the numbers, and this is a projection based on arithmetic, based on math, and the number of students that would be yielded from a particular type of development. And the schools came to the conclusion that it was consistent with what they found as well. And the recommendation is that there'd be no need for expansion of facilities, but there would be some transportation capital cost. And that's what this next slides provide as well. But there were still concerns about it. So we asked our expert to go back and have further conversations with the county as well. You can see this is a chart that Mr. Silver shared with Pine Fork Ridge alone. And of course, I think you all are aware that your choke point, if you will, where your schools are facing the most immediate need is probably at the middle school level. You've got your elementary schools have capacity, your high school has capacity, but the elementary school is where it's most acute at this point in time. So you see with just calculating Pine Fork Ridge students coming in, there's remaining 71% seats, if you will, available for students. Going into more detail with the Pine Fork Ridge development and committed development, and I have a list of those projects if anyone is interested in how they're broken down. But it demonstrates that at that point in time, with the development and the committed development, which committed development are those things which have already are further along in the process, if you will. The plan of development's been approved, the building permits are beginning to be issued, and things of that nature. So they're more certain, if you will, that at that point in time there would be overcapacity of approximately 17 students, which again would not generate that would be less than one student per classroom. And I don't believe any prudent school administrator would demonstrate that was the need for additional capital construction. And then finally, we have the committed in pipeline, and again, it begins to show it went from -17 to -26. Again, less than one per classroom. We did go back and do some further analysis of that. We went and looked at Rochambeau and Deer Lake and the number of students that were projected from there. We then went countywide, and with coordination with staff, the expert did some additional analysis. The number that was projected ticked up some, but it still resulted in less than one additional student per classroom, and it still resulted in a recommendation of the transportation capital needs, but not the construction of new facilities. And I will tell you that I have a little experience with school systems and with building schools, and unfortunately, particularly at the high school and also at the middle school level, you've got to have a certain number of students to offer the courses that are necessary. So you can't just suddenly decide that we're going to take a 900-student middle school and have two 450-student middle schools or something of that nature, because suddenly now you don't have the number of students taking various courses that can justify the additional staff that you need. So it has to be an incremental growth, and there will be some decisions that need to be made along those lines. But this particular development, as you can see, does not trigger large numbers of students over the rated capacity of those buildings. So let's summarize now if we can. And Mr. Silver provided this, but I want to take just a minute to focus on it. So Pine Fork Road itself, which we got a lot of feedback about, is almost $1.75 million worth of improvements along the way with left turn lanes, the paving, the shoulders, and the center line. The extension of sewer and water to the park for its future use, as the county begins to use it and more and it expands, is over $1 million. The cost, and not the value to the county, but the cost of the developer putting forth the $1.3 million advance fees per phase is about $440,000, or almost $500,000 to him, to his company. And then finally, the cash proffer of $7,000 per lot that would be available to address impacts of schools, to address impacts to utilities, and any other things that folks have mentioned in their remarks is almost $2 million. So the total is over $5 million, or roughly $19,500 per lot, which we believe is rather insubstantial and significant. So that concludes my remarks. I know that it was mentioned that you may have questions for me now, or you may have questions along the way after the public has spoken. I would ask that if there is an opportunity at the end for me to address perhaps some of the comments that are made from the public, I often find that it's useful because this is a lot of information. that may be being seen by some of these people for the first time. And it just takes, I think it's important that we have an opportunity to emphasize certain things. But Mr. Chairman, I'm available for questions now if that's the desire of the commission.
Thank you.
I should have said Madam Chairman. I forgot that we had a bifurcation.
That's
Thank
okay.
you.
Commissioners, questions? Yes.
The very early one? Yes, sir. I think I can. Oop, there we go.
So the water and sewer, how is it going to get into Pine Fork Bridge? What route are you using to get it to service all the properties there?
So we have a proposed, I don't have that slide available, but we have a proposed route where we have reached out regarding easements that would get it to the development itself. You know, that's always a part of the negotiation as we go forward. It becomes, you know, obviously we can't build it, we can't get sewer and water there, but we will. We're in negotiations with that, and we have a route identified, and if necessary, we'll choose other method or other pathways. I hope that's helpful.
Question on that is that easement coming from the Arbors neighborhood, the backside through the lot that's on the other side, coming into that top edge of Pine Fork Bridgeport subdivision?
Joe, do you know offhand do you have that utility drawing? Maybe
I would assume that's the closest location. Mike would probably know best.
Yeah,
I would assume that's the closest location to
I
tie
think
in.
you're right. Yes.
Yeah, it's going.
So this is Joe Fidel, who is with the Bay Companies, who's provided the concept plan. Yeah. So why don't you explain what you're showing as well?
This privacy fence, this comes from Pine Fork Park. That's where your water line extension's coming across that empty field that's there. Currently it was timbered 4 years ago, connecting into the backside of where the current Arbors is, where that road dead ends now, where D.R. Horton hasn't finished the neighborhood.
That's where that water and sewer is going to connect.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
That's fine. Have a great.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Is there anyone else has a question that I could try to answer? Okay, I will certainly be here as long as y'all want to ask questions, and I would like an opportunity to speak to any concerns that come up. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Maybe I'll leave this graphic up because that might be a good one.
Commissioners, are there any other questions before I open the public comment portion up? Let's see. Thank you, Mr. Silva. As I said before, when I call your name, please come up to the podium, state your name and address, and address all your comments to the commissioners. You will have three minutes. You will be timed, and when you hear the timer sound, please conclude your remarks. First name on the list is Dan Skelton.
Hi, I'm Dan Skelton. I'm one of the landowners that is selling the property. I'm a prior Air Force combat pilot. I spent 7 years in service and came home essentially to come into the county, and I've been here ever since. There are periods I was in Philippines, so I couldn't get back here, but this is my home. My house sits in the subdivision. It's actually on the other side of Allen's Run from there, and it's my this money is basically going to end up being part of my retirement. I get a small pension from Virginia Power, and I get my Social Security. And I've always planned on this being the last of my 3 sources of retirement income. So without this going through, I'm kind of struck. My house, like I said, is going to be part of this. I have a beautiful pond that the beavers have built for me. It will be in the back of one of the common areas from the rest of the subdivision, so you can walk down, put your canoe in, and paddle within the subdivision on my pond. And so I see that as a real benefit and a very comfortable place for it to be. My son used to sit out there and read in his canoe, but that was before the trees all went down. And the trees went down as part of one of the storms because the dirt underneath was soft. So appreciate your time. Any questions, please? Thank you for your time.
Kim Ladd.
Good evening. My name is Kim Ladd. I live at 7514 Pine Fork Terrace. My house on the private road, Pine Fork Terrace, that I live on is in the middle of the two entrances to this proposed development. And at least 4 of the proposed houses would back up to my yard. I understand the buffer. Well, at the first meeting, they said it was 30 feet, so they've added essentially my 5 foot to it. So 35 feet is the buffer now. But that is very close. It would destroy the Pine Fork Road area that we purposely moved into. My husband and I moved here to ensure larger lots, less houses, less development, and to enjoy wildlife. We love to watch the wildlife in our yard, but this development will disturb and probably destroy this sense of peace and calm for us. Also, Pine Fork Road cannot handle the influx of traffic this development would bring, as it is a narrow secondary road in need of repairs already. And it's already taxed by Pine Fork Park traffic, especially during special events. During the event that took place around Halloween, it took me 25 minutes to get from George Watkins Road to Pine Fork Terrace. It was very, very frustrating. We moved to New Kent to get away from that traffic, and now this development is just going to bring more traffic onto the road. So please don't make the current residents along Pine Fork Road have to deal with this traffic and the congestion on a daily basis. If Pine Fork Road is widened for this proposed neighborhood, the only way to widen it would be to take land from residents' yards. So please do not allow this to happen. Despite the developer's study saying it will not really affect the schools, common sense says that it will. 259 expensive homes means mostly 2-income families with children moving into the neighborhood, which will crowd the schools, and the schools are already having to deal with the influx of students by all the current neighborhoods being built in New Kent, of which 2 are very close to Pine Fork Road, and other nearby neighborhoods are building new sections, which undoubtedly will have children in those neighborhoods as well. Lastly, this high-priced proposed neighborhood does nothing to help with the lack of working-class, affordable housing in New Kent. I know New Kent County is a great place to grow, as our motto says, but it needs to be a great place to grow responsibly. So, commissioners, I urge you to retain the rural, relaxing, peaceful, nature-friendly, less congested atmosphere of the Pine Fork Road area and vote no on rezoning. Thank you.
Teresa Johnson.
Hi, Teresa Johnson. I live in the Arbors on Sedge Drive. My husband and I moved here 5 years ago, and we love New Kent. We moved here from Maryland, and we specifically chose this area because it was rural and very quiet. We go to Pine Forks Park every single day, 7 days a week. And Pine Fork Road really cannot handle the traffic that would come from this development. We love this area and we hate to see it change. We love Pine Fork area especially because it is so country, so rural, where so much other areas of the county are becoming more industrial. So we just like to see it stay the same way that it has been. Thank you for your time.
Craig Johnson? You're okay? Okay. Let's see. Margarita Jolly? Is that? I may not have pronounced that correct.
Marquita Jolie.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
at 7549 Pine Fork Terrace. I'm in the same neighborhood as Kim Ladd. I am in like 100% agreement with everything that she said. I mean, and we moved from Mechanicsville to move further out. So I like where I live. And we are those 4 houses that are tucked in that corner. And I mean, I'll have 3 properties butted up against me too. And I know there is a pathway that they're going to have to come over to the park, but I see families walking through our property, which is private. I do have a question, though. Can I ask a question? You said something about...
Ma'am, you need to address your comments
concerns.
to the commission.
Okay. All right. Well, I couldn't understand the 100-foot adjacent property line and some fencing that
Okay.
he was talking about. I don't remember the fencing at the community meeting, and I just was hoping he could clarify the fence. Would it be the properties butted up against the properties that are there now butted up against the new neighborhood? I just don't remember the fencing in the community meeting, and he did
Okay.
talk about that. So,
We'll
okay.
We'll follow up with that with
Okay.
our
All right.
questions afterwards.
Thank you.
Thank you. David and Cindy Moran?
Do you want us both together, or?
Do you want us to come together, or you want one at a time?
It's up to you.
Let's take like 3 minutes.
It's not gonna take 3 minutes.
Okay.
We're Cindy and David Markham, and we live at 7578 Jack Pine Court. We live in the subdivision right beside Pine Fork Park, which is off Pine Fork Road. I'm going to talk about one issue, and he's going to talk about the other. One of the things that was brought out at the public meeting that was briefly mentioned during the presentation was the connecting of pedestrians from the proposed subdivision to Pine Fork Park, and that is a real concern for me regarding safety. If we're talking about families and children getting from one side of the road to the other, and with the additional traffic that is projected to already be on that road, I just really feel like that is a real concern with little children trying to get over to the park to utilize the facilities there.
2 or 3 quick things. One was the road itself, as we've talked about, is a small road, very heavily trafficked. Adding a yellow line all the way down to Airport Road sounds nice, but it's not increasing the width, and therefore, as I'm a person that drives it every day, I frequently have to either come to a stop or pull off to the side of the road to allow larger vehicles to go by me. And I also want to just tag on to something that you guys have said in the notice that we have, because we're talking about this all being rural land. I personally have a difficulty seeing 259 houses being part of a rural situation. That's you have 160 acres of usable land because 40 some of it is going to be used by a natural area. So you have 259 houses on 160 acres. And again, to me, that's just not rural. Thank you.
So we're asking you to vote this down. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's see.
Or you can
said. Lisa Rakowski?
Hi, my name is Lisa Rykowski, and I live at 6050 Pine Fork Road. Our property, there will be at minimum 4 houses that will be adjacent to our property. And of a lot of the houses on New Kent, we were fortunate enough that when we built our home, we built to the very end of our property. So you cannot see our home from the road, but when this subdivision is built, that's all we will see around us. 20 years ago, my husband and I moved here from Wisconsin. We had our choice of any city in Virginia, and we chose New Kent because of the rural. We grew up in a farming community. We're going to lose that. It's been mentioned about the width of the road. Saturday, my husband left our home, and we're already on a blind curve. He left our home turning right on Pine Fork towards Airport. All traffic heading east. The road was so narrow, it took him almost 10 minutes to turn right because traffic was backed up on Pine Fork, Airport, past the dump, and going down towards Woodhaven because of traffic accidents on 64. And they're only going to get worse. And I think the developer, to the number of children that he is saying are going to be here, he's designing it for children. The fact that you're going to have that walkaway to the park, that is only going to entice families with more children. So it's definitely going to affect the schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Before I close the public comment period, is there anyone else that wishes to speak?
My name is Ryan Batkins. I live at 6048 Pine Fork Road. Look, I've lived in this county my whole life. My dad before me, my grandfather before me, okay? The majority of this county used to be farming and rural community. We all love the country. And we all understand that change is inevitable. I've heard about more change than most people my age have seen. But we understand also that change comes with responsibility. And change needs to happen at a rate at which the county and the citizens in it can take it in. And it's happening so rapidly that we're not having a chance to adjust to it. So I just ask you to reconsider and not pass this. That's all. You have a good day. Thank you.
Going to now close the public comment portion, and I am going to turn the floor back.
Thank you, Ms. Rose. Commissioners, discussion? Let's start with discussion. Any discussion? And yes, Ms. Townsend, I see your finger at the ready.
Thank you. Mr. Silva, this question's for you. Do they have any specifications about the buffers? Are we looking at putting evergreens in as considering buffers?
Certainly as it relates to the requirements for how buffers in our code have to be planted, you know, the type A, B, C buffers in our code, there is kind of a specificity with respect to types of trees. In this case, the way that the landscape buffer proffer was offered, it didn't get into that level of detail with respect to what type of plantings would be in there, what sort of densities, et cetera. Just the widths were specified.
Okay. The other question I have is that the pumping station for our water right now, is it adequate for the amount of houses?
I have the great fortune of having the Director of Public Utilities here, but in their review of the materials provided, it was indicated that capacity was sufficient. And I think the main issue was that there might be upgrades needed to the sewer pump stations at the farms of New Kent.
So is the sewer able to maintain it?
It is with those upgrades.
And when will the upgrades be done before the development comes in, or?
They would have to be, yes.
It would have to be.
Yes.
And at the expense of?
The developer.
The developer. Okay. Thank you.
Yes, ma'am.
The paving on the road, you might as well stand up. I've got a whole bunch of questions. The paving, is that going to be done entirely from Emmaus Church Road to Airport?
So the way that the Pine Fork improvement was proffered with the 1.5 inch of asphalt overlay, that would be from the intersection of Pine Fork and 106 to the southern or westernmost entrance into the subdivision. So the 1.5 inch of asphalt overlay would not run the entirety of Pine Fork to Airport as it's been proffered now.
Okay. The other question I have is that, now, will there be no left turns on Emmaus Church Road? One of the diagrams you had 2 arrows pointing to making a right.
Yeah, so there would not be any left turn restrictions. I think that graphic was intended to outline what those turning movements with respect to the concerns that VDOT expressed about potential sight distance issue or sort of vision issues at the intersection of 106 and Pine Fork once Four Seasons Ridge Lane opens. That was kind of intended to illustrate how those sight distance issues might work. But there would still be permitted to be left turns onto 106.
Okay.
There's no proposal to change that.
And as our last Board of Supervisors meeting, I know that we were discussing, you were discussing the new deputies to come in. At this point in time, for the amount of people that come in, do we have enough deputies right now to cover our population according to how much is required?
That's a great question. Admittedly, off the top of my head, that's not. I might not be the best person to answer that. As it relates to this proposed rezoning, these requests do get sent to the Sheriff's Department for review as well. That is not expressly a comment that was made, but I do know that is an ongoing challenge as it relates to just sheriff staffing countywide for all purposes. So while I don't have any,
Mr. Silva, I think Mr. Boria has a little information on that.
I might have a little bit of it. We are below the number, but our sheriff has been hiring as much as he can, and this would add probably a need for probably at least a half a deputy, if you know what I mean, because of the number of people that would be involved.
Thank you, Mr. Boria. Sorry, Mr. Silva.
no, thank you.
And were there currently any proffers according to going towards the Sheriff's Department?
No. Generally, the voluntary proffers offered by the applicant are intended to offset the impacts of a proposed rezoning. There was nothing specifically intended to fund additional hiring to the sheriff's office expressly, no.
Okay, thank you. And the last question, Pine Fork Road, can it handle the traffic that is currently going to be added to it?
That's a great question. As was stated, VDOT did review the traffic impact analysis that was provided with the application, and they did not indicate as part of the information provided that it could not. But I certainly understand the concerns. I mean, 1,221 more vehicles per day on a road that doesn't have anywhere near that right now is certainly going to change things. So I wouldn't act for a minute like that's not the case. But with respect to this sort of technical analysis related to the road's ability to support additional capacity, VDOT did not indicate they disagreed with the conclusions of the TIA.
Thank you, Mr. Silva.
Reverend Hathaway.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I've got 3 areas of concern. I think the improvements on part of Pine Fork Road is fine for that part of Pine Fork Road, but I'm concerned that it doesn't go all the way. And I do understand that your development is not going to be on the whole road, but the traffic that we're having there now, and I go on Pine Fork Road quite a bit, can be very congested. And so to have it, your development is not enough for me. thing is, in the public hearing, there was of housing opportunities. It has a lot of housing, a number of people, and I haven't heard anything about your price points. And so I'd like to know what your price points are. The third area of concern for me is I look at this from what is the highest best use for current zoning, not future zoning. And when I look at the highest best use for current zoning, I don't see how 259 more houses is the best use for current zoning.
Thank you, Reverend Hathaway. Mr. LaRochelle, I believe you have finger was ready.
Yes, sir. On the traffic impact study that was done, obviously a lot of discussion from folks who live on that road concerned about traffic. What volume of traffic did that study assess for Pine Fork Park itself? Because if you go in there on a Saturday and every ball field is full and tons and tons of people coming and going to Pine Fork, is that factored in to the traffic impact assessment?
Saturdays were not factored in. But keep in mind, what you're looking at for neighborhood projections will be much lower on a Saturday as well. They tend to be pretty peak heavy. Everyone leaves in the morning to go to work. Everybody kind of returns typically around the same time in the evening. So per state and federal guidelines, we studied a weekday. It's a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. We collect counts, so we don't catch any oddities from the weekend or travel or what have you.
All right, another question I have about the buffers. So 100-foot buffer along Pine Fork Road, how is that deeded? Who owns it? Who controls it? And the 35-foot buffer along the perimeter, if I understood correctly, that would be deeded to the property owners? Is that correct? And how is that buffer maintained?
So in the proffer itself, thank you for the question. In the proffer itself, we provide that, and this is in the proffer, it says, a landscape preservation easement acceptable as content informed the county attorney must encompass the entirety of the proposed landscape buffers. So there will be an easement that will be provided so that it will be maintained in perpetuity. The 30 feet in the back of the lot lines will go
35 feet, right?
I beg your pardon, 35. And a lady mentioned that before. I think I actually misspoke at the community meeting. It's always been 35. So I apologize for the mistake that I made. We didn't make a change. We just left it the same. Yes, that will be within that. Per the regulations, it's allowed. It will be within the property itself.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
The fence.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, one more question
Okay.
on the fence. I think it said, was it a 6-foot fence or an 8-foot fence?
8-foot privacy fence and what we did is we identified those parcels adjacent to the boundaries that have existing homes within 100 feet of the property. Yeah, which I think will. I remember some of these folks at the community meeting staying afterwards and speaking with me and showing me precisely where they lived. And I went back with Mr. Godsey, and that was a solution. So I believe that we've addressed that regard.
So details on the fence, is that an 8-foot wooden fence, 8-foot vinyl fence? What does that fence look like?
Well, that would all be determined at the plan of development, the final plan of development, subject to approval by the director of planning or the planning department. And we can certainly specify with that. We would work with the property owner adjacent to try to accomplish something that would be meaningful for them as well. So,
thank you.
Yes, sir. I mean, I can show you, but it's yeah. It is. Yeah, it's 4,000 feet of fencing, so it's basically matchable to the other graphic. I think it shows on the other graphic better. But here's some along here. Here's some along here as well, where there's adjacent homes, and then all along here where these homes are, and then all along here. I think I can get that. So, but we certainly, if anybody if it was amended, it was not on purpose, and it was certainly, we were doing it based on the maps of as existing buildings. So, it was an earnest effort to try to address that concern. Now, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
Were there some
no,
other
I think
members
there
who
may
had-
be still some more questions,
Okay.
and then I would give you a chance to remark to Paul.
Okay.
Ms. Thomas, do you have any questions? No.
I do.
Have at it.
I have one question.
Okay.
And
just to be clear, what is the proposed lot sizes for these homes?
Well, you heard Mr. Silva explain that there's one as small as, what was it? 0.27 acres and at least one that is over 1 acre. So it's based on the topography, but it is, as was explained. And I will tell you that if you look at go back to the chart I had with go back the other way, with the existing densities. I mean, it's very consistent with some of the other neighborhoods that are there. And keep in mind also, there was a mention of one of the gentlemen spoke, I believe it was a gentleman spoke about the speed of change and the rapidity of things and so forth. And, you know, this is not 1,000+ planned unit development or any of those sorts of things. It's a finite number. The goal would be, we're anticipating 4 phases of roughly 60 to 65 houses per. You know, you can't create 259 homes in overnight is obviously an exaggeration, but over a number of years is more accurate. So we anticipate that each phase will take at least 2 to 3 years, and as well as the fact of getting the neighborhood out of the ground is going to take a significant period of time. So it's 2 years before the first house would ever be constructed, and then over the next, you know, what's that, 6 to 8 years at the most rapid, the development of the homes. So we're talking about you're talking about 8 to 10 years, 6 to 8 years, somewhere in there, based on market and everything else. So there's an opportunity to absorb them. It's an opportunity to address some of the concerns that have been mentioned as well. Correct. Mr. Godsey points out correctly that the things that we would be required to do for the road work, both on-site and off-site, the sewer and water to the park and so forth, the cash proffers as they come online would all be up front.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas. Ms. Johnson, do you have any questions?
Yes, Mr. Chair, thank you. Do I understand that the proposed, like Reverend Hathaway mentioned, price points?
Yes, so I had Reverend Hathaway's questions and was going to get back to him. So we initially were hoping to be in the 5s with the various work that's going to be done. It's going to be pushing 6, which is not insignificant by any stretch of the imagination. But I will tell you that I think Mr. Hathaway in his earlier remarks mentioned the opportunity to explore some land trust programs as well. And my understanding of how those work and my experience with how those work in general is it doesn't lower the price of the house. It doesn't change the house at all. What it does is it takes a person and helps them on the front end with some additional funds. And then the relationship between the property owner and the trust is one that protects that money going forward. So there's opportunities to lower the cost for a family without lowering the cost of the home, which would affect possibly somebody who lived next door. And then also, and we've done these in some other areas, the goal is that a house that's part of the trust is indistinguishable from a house that is not part of the trust. And the houses that are part of the trust are scattered throughout the neighborhood, so that it's not as though we have a road where we say, all right, these are the workforce houses or something of that nature. It's an effort to make workforce housing more available within the neighborhood, throughout the neighborhood. And generally speaking, and Reverend Hathaway can probably add more to this than I certainly can, but generally speaking, those programs come into play subsequent to zoning, and then there's a commitment made and a document that's it's basically an easement or an agreement that says that a certain number of and it's a window, certain number of the properties within this 259 properties will be available for the ABC Land Trust to participate in. And it's anywhere from, it just depends on what y'all end up wanting, what your community ends up wanting. So I hope that, that was an opportunity to answer Reverend Hathaway's questions as well.
I had another question, if you don't mind, Mr. Montgomery.
Of course.
Did I see that your proposal is that you're using one builder for all 4 phases?
Well, At this point, well, we are. Yeah. So.
I'm not bringing a box builder in there, a Ryan Homes or something like that. We're going to build in there like we did in Rochambeau. That was my commitment to my supervisor.
Yeah. So, and just so everyone knows, so NK Homes is affiliated with Gotzi Properties, but it's a different company, but it is affiliated with Gotzi Properties. Yeah. So, that's good. Fair, very fair. Thank you.
Mr. Dombrowski.
I have a couple things. To piggyback off of Reverend Hathaway's comments on the road improvements, I do think that road improvements are necessary for that development. I think everyone in this room knows that. I do agree with Reverend Hathaway that the entire road is important. Just because the travel and what's going on in the county, there is a bunch of travel up and down. And every single night I'm at Pine Fork Park because I have kids that play sports, so I'm there every night. And I know the travel that goes up and down that road. So I would say maybe take a look and see if we can do some adjustments on the actual improvements of the road itself. 100-foot buffers, love that idea. I know that we've pushed that as a commission over the past year to expand our buffers and to make them wider and to make them more diligent, and I think that that's something that needs to happen. I think to answer, there was a question from the audience on the fencing buffers on adjacent properties, and you had pointed that out on the map, 35 feet with 8-foot fence. I think that it can be substantial. I think that more would be adequate, but also you have larger lots along the backs of those properties. I think where my biggest concern lies really is in the $1,081,000 for the water line extension to Pine Fork Park means nothing for the CIP funds. It doesn't give anything to that park because that park is all on well and septic. The current CIP funds for improvements are only for ball fields and parking lots. I appreciate it, but I don't think it gives the county really anything there. So maybe that can be used more towards the road frontage. In the sense of the water and the supply sewer, I went through the lots and what's approved, what isn't even shown in these meetings, and aren't talked about. There are 387 total lots currently between Farms and New Kent that are already in development. Maybe they're not currently developed. There is the townhomes and the arbors, the townhomes that are also slated for the groves, and the lifestyle section of Bay 5 behind the Buc-ee's. Don't know what the time frame is on that. That's 272 units. That's all sewer and water. Along with that, you have the reserves in Venetera, which is the backside of Venetera, which is 115 lots. And I'm sure that the county did its due diligence, but I don't see how there's no proffers on any of those either, which you guys have offered to help, which I love. But there are no proffers on those to include anything in the water supply, to build, to help us, to offset the cost. And the last thing we need to do is put development on a burden of the current taxpayers that sit in this room. I don't see that as necessary. If you want to build a development in New Kent, do the proffers that are substantial to make your development worthwhile, and we can see that fit. I like the idea of you being the developer and building your homes. I think that is the right way of doing it, and I appreciate that. But I think that there's an overall picture here that I don't think is being seen just looking at this one development. And I think that there's a large part of the middle section of New Kent County that is underdeveloped and already zoned in our comp plan. We spent almost $1 million or over $1 million on our comprehensive plan for 2045, and we're going to walk away from that. We left the burden and we already paid for it. It's already been paid for out of funds. We're going to walk away from that to zone another area. I just don't see that as necessary when we have lots that are currently available. That being said, those are my comments on this proposed development, but that should be looked at when you see everything in that district. What can happen, what will happen, and also there's already one in District 2 in my district that is going to connect the water line. These are all things that don't require any sort of rezoning, this is, when we talk about slowing growth in New Kent and making it strategic, we're not being strategic. We're just throwing shotgun shells at it. We're throwing it all over the place. And I just don't see this as a feasible way for growth as we continue in New Kent County. And this is there's a reason why we pay for the comp plan, and I would give it to Joe is not here, and Joe spent hours and hours of his own time, his free time, to handle that comprehensive plan, and we need to look at that. And I would just say that there are more lots that are already under development that are not seen, that are not brought in front of this committee, that we need to look at before we say we're going to approve another 259. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dombrowski. Ms. Rose.
Well, I'm going to probably reiterate a lot of things that have already been said, but I've got significant concerns about the estimates for the schools and the number of students. The analysis shows current enrollment, but does not have any indication of the potential for students from those undeveloped, already approved lots. Same thing goes for
There's only
the
45 that would be bringing any sort of children to the school. There's 227 that are all 55 plus, so that would be very
well. I know, but the point that a lot of the analysis does not include all those incremental already approved lots and subdivisions. I've got a very similar concern to you regarding the water lines, water and sewer. I think it's underestimated for what we potentially will see in a build out. I've also got some concerns about and this is a question for you, Mr. Silva. I've heard the 35-foot buffer on the back side and these 8-foot of privacy fences. For a rural subdivision, putting that up to shield the neighbors from the views, it also blocks any free flow of wildlife. And it's also a lot of linear footage to have to maintain that fence in a proper manner. So unless there's significant provisions for the homeowners to have to maintain that, I'd much rather see more buffer and density of trees as the shielding. So, and then the other point that I think one of the commenters raised, the fact that you want to try and connect to Pine Fork, great idea if it's a family community, but yeah, I go over there an awful lot. I see how people fly down that road, and I'm envisioning even with signs and flashing lights on a crosswalk, people are going to be risking life and limb just to get from one side of the road to the other. So, I'll leave it at that.
Thank you, Ms. Rose. Mr. Moyer, you have anything, or are you going to wait until you're Board member.
No, I got a few things right now. One, I want to address some of the concern about growth in the county. What you're seeing coming out of the ground now are all by right developments that are there without needing any approval by planning commission or by board of supervisors. In the past, all they needed was an approved site plan. And that's 680 that will be coming up. We maybe have 40 that are out of the ground right now. So there'll be 680 that developers, builders took advantage of. Our old development size was you could have, if you had 5 acres, you could put 1 lot on it in a family subdivision. We changed that, planning commission and then board of supervisors that I was not a member of, but changed it to 10 acres per lot, which pretty much put a moratorium unspecified, but a moratorium on building in cluster subdivisions because of that, because it was not profitable to be able to do that. But the month before that ordinance was put in, we had a number of developers and builders put site plans in and that were approved. And like I said, that's 680 that are going to be coming on. You know, and that varies from Pomeroy Park on in the western part of the county to the new ones on 155. That'll be coming out of the ground. Those were not rezoned to do that. Those were by right. That does not include the 100 that'll be coming up in Vinatera. As mentioned, there's a half dozen family subdivisions that are still looking to be built. 1,300 townhouses in the Groves are still there and possibly going to be built. And those the difference with the proffers is, unfortunately, this goes back to Farms in New Kent, which is I think 2007 or 8. Those proffers were paid up front, as these were. Thus, any kind of connection fees or that we do now are on the county's dime, which, you know, so any of these, we go further, we're looking at more and more of the cost to our water customers, you know, for these opportunities. So that's just a mention of what growth has been about in the county. I know Mr. Hathaway, the Reverend Son, mentions that any town hall meeting he's been to is that no new lot has been approved in the county in probably 5 years, and we're not looking to change that. But if the necessity is there, we know we have the opportunity to. But with, like I said, 680 properties that are lots that are still coming out of the ground that have site plans for, not just an idea that there'll be 100. They have site plans. So that's my comment on this right now.
John, I have a question for you. Does that include the 216 in Patriots Landing?
No, that does not include the 216.
So that's where your workforce housing, HUD housing right now sits.
Right.
216 in Patriots Landing.
Right.
On your apartment complex.
Yeah, I'm actually what I thank you for mentioning that, because how I want to correct myself is the 680 are $600,000 to $900,000 properties. This is what we were talking about here. We have 680 of those coming out of the ground.
Well, that doesn't include the townhomes in the Groves, which is 1,300.
Right, but they're a different price point.
Right.
Different thing,
they're a different price point.
But the same price point that we're talking about here is what
Exactly.
we're saying.
Yes,
We have 680 already.
So that's 680 of those. That doesn't include the rest.
Right.
Which is less, which is great. We need less, a little bit more affordable. But we need to be cognizant of that when we look at all of these things.
And may I
Thank-
ask too, John?
Yes.
Those by right lots, are they included in the numbers for the schools?
I do not know that.
So the numbers of the schools, if I can, include committed development, which is defined as consisting of lots and subdivisions that are lots that are actively under construction, lots in subdivisions that have been parcelized but construction has not yet begun, and lots that have been approved by staff level review but construction is not yet started. The pipeline is a little further out, and that's consisting of subdivisions that are currently under review but have not received approval for construction. So, and those numbers, and so, you know, what you do is, we take those numbers that are provided to us and we use the ratio, and we actually, as a result of a meeting, we went back and did some further analysis of the ratios just as a sort of a quantitative check of the work that we were doing. So, yeah.
Do you have a number for that?
For which one?
For the number of homes that are,
so
let's say, approved. I mean,
so
I know that you guys are going to spend more money than the county does. So, what is the approval of that? What do you have a number on those lots?
The number I have that are committed, which again are those that are further along, I have 733, and I have it broken down by neighborhood. And then the quote pipeline is Robbins Creek, which is 100 and almost it's 129 or 130 not yet approved. Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. The commission has brought up some items that I think that it's worthwhile to address and things of that nature. However, there's been one nagging thing since I've become cognizant of this development, which occurred back, I guess, in December, is why wasn't this property brought before the comprehensive plan rewrite? I don't know if I need an answer to that, but I believe the board acknowledged the comprehensive plan about a year ago now, and it was a 2-year process. And I know these kind of plans don't occur overnight, but why wasn't the property brought before the comprehensive plan rewrite to be possibly evaluated for a different designation in the future land use?
In the comprehensive land.
Yeah.
Well, I think what you bring out is the reason is these things are not done overnight. It takes a significant amount of time. You have to identify the parcel, got to find a willing seller.
But again, that process was almost 2 years in duration and was voted on last year. So 2 year hence to that was all the evaluation period when the fact-finding information was gathering was compiled to come up with a comprehensive plan that the board adopted about a year ago. And my prior experience says these kind of development plans don't occur overnight. So if I backtrack from today's presentation, I'm saying a year, this idea of doing this subdivision could have come before the comprehensive plan for consideration of changing the land use designation in it. So I'm not asking for an answer. I am asking for an answer, but I don't know if one can be provided.
Well, it's okay. I'll do my best.
Yeah.
So, as you say, as you point out, it is not something that happens overnight. So we've got 5 different parcels here, 3 different owners. One set of owners is in a trust. So it's in order to put together the parcels that is necessary because you see the topography, and in order to do those sorts of things, and then do the studies necessary is there sewer and water that would support it? What do we do with the roads? So all of those things come along. So on the one hand, one could say, as soon as the idea was a spark, then perhaps we could then begin involved in the comprehensive planning, or the landowner could, and say, this is what I envision for my property, perhaps. But there's a lot of steps that have to occur for a landowner or someone who's a contract buyer before they ever get to the place where they say, okay, my due diligence says that this is material. And we met in this room with various members of the county staff in sort of a pre-application phase. I don't remember the precise date, but it's been over 6 months ago. So. And at that point, we were still getting feedback. Actually, the first meeting was even before I was involved in it, and that's when we got the information about the 100-foot buffers and some of the other things that folks would be encouraged to include. So, I would say on the one hand, perhaps a rush to the courthouse, if you would, to get in front of the comprehensive plan is one method. Another technique is to go deliberately and try to get things in order to present the best case possible. Obviously, If I had my druthers, I wish the comprehensive plan were going to be done in 2 years from now. We were talking about it. You could take it into consideration, but it's not. It's just the way things evolve. So that's the best I can do. So I believe you made it around the room. So I'm going to go back now and try to answer some of the questions. Is that okay, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, it is. But let's be just poignant to the questions and not drag it on, because we've had a really long discussion here.
We have, and it's much appreciated. And I'm not going to address every one of the public comments because I think they may be encompassed in the response to the commissioners. It's duly noted. A number of you mentioned the pavement of the entire roadway. That's not something that VDOT studied the road and said that it could handle and was available to do the traffic. It's of the classification. VDOT is not going to make changes to this road unless, to my knowledge, in any time in the near future. So, but my client decided after driving the road and hearing the comments that, you know what, the people that I'm going to ask to move into these homes I'm building, as well as the people in New Kent who are already using the road, it'll be a safer, more enjoyable experience. I'm going to put up the millions of dollars to do that. So and the reason we ended it where it was is just because at some point the money runs out, and that's where the cost ended. I'm going to move as quickly as I can. There was a conversation early on. Ms. Townsend asked about deputies and so forth. Not ordinarily, but by law, proffers go to capital expenses. So that's why we talk about the school buses and the sewer infrastructure and things of that nature as being a part of that $7,000 proffer. There is, of course, folks will be paying, that'd be almost 260 new families paying property taxes and stuff, which would help to pay the ongoing cost of those sorts of things. But I understand your question. Let's see if I can keep moving along here. Reverend Hathaway. Reverend Hathaway had 3 points, the first being Pine Fork Road. I think I've addressed it, but to the best that I can. But if there's anything else, I will try to do so. He also mentioned, as well as someone else, that regarding the affordable housing opportunities and workforce housing, and I think I addressed that as well. I encourage you, as I do my developer clients and so forth, to seriously find a way to work with the various land trusts. It does a wonderful job of maintaining the cost of the home for those who are paying in the ordinary commercial, or not commercial, but in the ordinary residential mortgage business. At the same time, providing places for families with deputies and teachers and management and so forth. So I hope that that's an opportunity that we have a chance to be part of. Maybe we'll be the first one if we can move forward with Pine Fork Ridge. And then I just respectfully offer that the acreage and the highest and best use of it and so forth, which is a part of the decision-making process, obviously. We made a conscious decision to try to have as many homes in there in order to increase the density, similar to what's going on in other areas. And I know I'm constantly under the struggle that says, all right, if we're going to put 259 families in 200 acres, and one of the folks talked about usable acres, but regardless, however you do, wherever the denominator is, 259 families in 200 or so acres. If we go to the situation where it's one house per 5 acres, or even one house per 10 acres, now that's, 3,000 acres to accomplish the same number of homes, and if someone can afford to do them. So here we have things that a concentrated sewer and water can support it. So you're not having to put in alternative systems and so forth, or pump station, or growlers, or things of that nature that the county will end up getting the call on. And you're able to do it in which is able to be supported with fire and with schools and everything else. So you got a single bus route coming through there, in and out, and it's adjacent to sewer and water already. So all of a sudden now, the cost of that sewer and water, the cost of that infrastructure is increasing, but it's not increasing as much as it was if we were over 3,000 acres for that number of homes. So I hope that would be my response to the question or the comment regarding the highest and best use. Mr. La Rochelle mentioned traffic in and out of Pine Fork Park. That is why we came back and put that left turn lane in there. Was that it was an effort to recognize that, and frankly, again, that's not going to be as big of an impact for the folks coming in and out of Pine Fork Ridge, but it will add 200 feet of, I believe 200 feet of storage for people turning into there, which will provide some relief. It's not gonna be the final answer, but it will provide some relief, and that's all that we can do at that point. So let's see if I can keep moving along. Ms. Thomas, again, road improvements. I believe there was a question about she did ask about the 100-foot buffers and how that would be maintained. I believe it was you, Ms. Thomas. I hope so. And fencing along the buffers and so forth, and the 35 feet. So I hope I've addressed that as well, that it will be required to be done as part of the plan of development, and then Mr. Dombrowski asked about a number of things, but one about the CIP fund. And frankly, the $7,000 that we're proffering is not tied to any particular infrastructure requirement. Moreover, there was a comment regarding the prepayment of sewer and water hookup fees and how. So what happens is you pay them, and then suddenly now the money's there, and the county may have used it for whatever, and now you got folks, you got to come up with the money to do it. We're sort of splitting the baby on that, and by doing it by sections only. So the money will be much more closely tied in time to when the sewer and water hookup fees would be, yet it would be available in the event that the county needed $1 million or so to do some kind of planning or some kind of expansion as well. So frankly, the county administration was the one that suggested that as a means to accomplish that. It's costing my client roughly $400,000, so we could certainly fall back to paying them as we go, but it would seem to be a good approach in that regard. I hope I answered your questions. Let's see if that's it. Mr. Moyer had a number of points as well regarding the numbers and so forth. Someone, and I'm afraid, I don't know if I didn't make the note correctly or not, but mentioned, maybe Ms. Rose asked about our school projections. And so I just want to take a moment and talk about that, if you could. So we did an analysis of the schools, and then we did, because of some questions that were raised, let me see how this works. All right. We went back and did additional analysis. So we did two things, and I'll provide a copy of this because it's a lot of information real quick. But if you see the first line is our original analysis, then we went and looked just at Rochambeau and Deer Lake, Deer Lake, and we came up, the projection there was 0.5. So what that means is for every, of 259 houses, 130 students is roughly that. And then in coordination with schools and with the county, we went back and looked yet again at countywide and other developments in that regard and factored out age restricted, and the ratio there came into 0.41. So if you see, our original analysis was 0.38, the final analysis was 0.41, very close, and then it shows there the figures. That zero, I don't know what's going on with that. It's certainly not correct, but when it transferred over from the slide making, but it is what I just said, 0.41. So, but it's a very detailed and quite frankly scientific and technical, and it's based on statistics and all. So it's not me guessing, and it's not the schools guessing. It's schools providing data, county providing data, and then an analysis is done by an expert. And the schools agreed with our methodology and our results. So,
Mr. Montgomery, I believe Mr. Moyer has one more comment or question for you, sir. If you
absolutely.
Can indulge.
I just want to remind the planning commission, this is a rezoning hearing. Okay, development is great, whatever happens with the development, but this is very similar to a CUP. A CUP goes with the land. This rezoning would be rezoning it from agricultural to residential. If another developer comes in after the board supervisor would approve this, another developer comes in, they could have a different type of approach. We had a similar thing with Liberty Landing on Route 60. That is zoned business. One of the main reasons why they're not building right now is they never were able to get that
rezone to residential. So, like I said, the rezoning goes with the land. So, something to consider.
Yeah, absolutely, and that's why we have, beginning at the bottom of page 3 and through the top of page 5, are specifications regarding the actual construction of the homes themselves. And your staff did a good job of holding our feet to the fire and making us get our pencils out and saying, this is what is going to be provided. I invite you to look at those. They do run with the land. So if I disappear and Mr. Godsey drops off the face of the earth, whoever comes along next is going to be bound by these, as well as the elevations that we presented. So it's not as though, it's not a new slate, is what I would suggest. It's a slate this is a rezoning from agriculture to residential with conditions, and those conditions become part of the zoning ordinance, and they have the enforcement of law. I hope that I didn't skip anyone's question, because they were all good ones, and I hope that in answering them, I addressed all or most of the comments from the community as well. But I'd be glad to try again if I overlook something.
Thank you, Mr. Montgomery. Commissioners, I will entertain a motion or final remarks, not discussion, just final remarks.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to entertain the motion. And at the end of the motion, I would like for fellow commissioners to sort of join in and help me conclude it.
Thank you.
In order to address and protect and promote public convenience, necessity, general welfare, and good zoning practices in the county, I move to forward application ZM 01-26 to the New Kent County Board of Supervisors with an unfavorable recommendation for the following reasons. My reasons, which I would like to add that I would like for the fellow commissioners, if they have reasons to add to it. The road conditions and the concerns with the amount of traffic that would impact that roadway. And the size of the development I felt was a little bit overpowering for that particular area. And then I had some concerns with the school impact. Mr. Hathaway, would you like to add to it?
I would add to that, it does not appear to be the highest best use based on current zoning. And that's the principle that planners use, is current zoning.
I would like to add that my concern is our ability for public utilities and where we see fit with the other developments that are within the county already on slate.
Anybody else? Ms. Sparrows?
Yes, I'll second that as far as the traffic, public utilities, and just the size and scale of the development as it would fit into that area.
Any other commissioners before I add my remark? My remark is that it's not in conformance with the comprehensive plan, period. So the motion is to forward with an unfavorable recommendation to the Board of Supervisors. All votes of yea is acknowledgement of the unfavorable recommendation with the conditions that we've noted. With the reservations that we've noted. Roll call, please.
Ms. Townsend?
Aye.
Ms. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Moyer?
Abstain.
Mr. Dombrowski?
Aye.
Ms. Thomas?
Aye.
Mr. La Rochelle?
Aye.
Ms. Rose?
Aye.
Reverend Hathaway?
Aye.
Mr. Bennett?
Aye. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody who participated in this matter. I know it was timely, or it took a lot of time. I know it took a lot of effort and evaluation, and I appreciate everybody's comments. Thank you. We will move to the final item of our agenda.
Mr. Chair, do you mind if we slip out?
Absolutely. I'll give you a minute to step out.
Thank you for your courtesy. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, we may want to remind the public too that this does go before the Board of Supervisors. So this decision here goes to them, but then they make the decision again. So I would say you may want to make your voice heard during the Board of Supervisors meeting.
Ms. Townsend's correct. We only make a recommendation to the board. The board has the final decision. That would be in the early part of June. June 6th, I believe, is the date. All right. So, the final item on our agenda is our meeting schedule. Our next meeting shall be held on June 15th, 2026 at 6 p.m. in this room. Please place it on your calendars, and if I have a motion, I will conclude this session.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And I second. The time is 8:16.